Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we are now fully in Cancer season. And over this next week, we're going to have Mars entering Gemini, the Capricorn full moon, Mercury stationing retrograde, and Jupiter enters Leo. So a lot of energies are shifting gears as we move into July. And we're going to be discussing all of that and more in today's show. This is an astrology podcast now packed with more protein and fiber in every episode to support your healthy well-being and lifestyle. And I also want to give you a heads up that I have something new to share with you at the end of this podcast. It's something that's been in the works for over a year. And as Chiron entered Taurus last Friday, June 19th, the energy became very evident that now is the time to share this new offering with you. So before we dive into the specifics of the transiting aspects this week, I do want to mention the global influence that's occurring right now through the World Cup energies. And astrologically, this pertains to the minor grand trine forming between the outer planets. That includes Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries, and Uranus in Gemini. All three of these are going to meet up in the middle of July and form an exact aspect at 4 degrees in each sign. And the energy of this alignment is rare, exciting, dynamic, world-changing, positive developments that set the course of our collective consciousness and what is possible here on the planet in a whole new direction if we so choose. Now, in addition to that minor grand trine forming, we're also going to have Jupiter moving into Leo, also at 4 degrees, interacting with the 3 outer planets, bringing in more of the playfulness, risk-taking, and inner child energies of Leo. But this energy has been visibly showing up through World Cup games that are happening through North America, and many of them, the majority of them, in various locations across the United States. Now, just an important thing to note here is that the World Cup has not been heavily marketed in the States. It hasn't been advertised. It hasn't been widely discussed. It isn't something that a lot of people even know about. And so we've had all these international visitors descending upon America, showing up in multiple cities, experiencing American life, American restaurants, American food and stores, and most importantly, American people, and being completely surprised by the kindness, the welcoming energy, the hospitality, and the friendliness that Americans hold in general simply through everyday interactions. It is heartwarming, it is delightful, it creates happiness, and there's many people saying we had it all wrong about America. The media portrayed the country in one way, and we visit and we experience it, and it's the opposite. So it's certainly worth noting because there's some powerful influences in play, as well as course corrections and a paradigm shifting awareness that is hitting thousands, if not millions of people. Now, this isn't to say America is perfect or paradise, and I'm not meaning that. What I'm saying, though, is that this is part of the minor grand trine that is opening up more of the goodness in the world, more of the ways that we have allowed false narratives to take over a truth. And this is setting the record straight energy. This is the solstice, turning of the seasons into a new chapter. But again, at a larger scale, the minor grand trine is bringing in positive, beneficial developments overall to the planet that can reconnect us to our own joy, passion, adventure, creativity, excitement, anything we've lost along the way that we want to bring into our lives. and also supports our sovereignty, our own unique lived experiences, our own personal understandings that are gaining strength and hold a lot of wisdom. So just a simple anecdotal understanding here of the minor grand trine forming in the background and the positive influences that are happening that you might not see on the mainstream media or through conventional means. So if you were to say, go into your social media algorithm and seek out these World Cup energies, you might be surprised at some of the joy and positivity that's coming through that is quite heartwarming. It's also important astrologically because the World Cup schedule goes until July 19th, and this minor grand trine is exact on July 18th. So now let's bring it back to the astrology of this week, as we are now fully in Cancer season, and the Cancer energies are returning you to what you feel that is personal and meaningful to you. This is an internal energy that is quite private, but it reveals what your internal truth is outside of the mind, outside of the ego, outside of anything external that may be influencing you. This is where you create your own internal sacred space and you listen to your own feelings and trust them. Now, the Cancer energy also relates to what you take care of, what you protect, what you honor, what you find precious, valuable, and special. And so you hold it close. The Cancer energy holds its feelings close. It holds people close. It holds anything that is important to you close to your heart, literally and figuratively. And so this is a season of the year where you might be checking in on those that you care for. And this could be people that are far away. These could be family members who live in another city, state, country. These could be elder parents you need to check in on and see how they're doing. These could be younger children or other family members that you haven't seen in a while. And this is the season of connection and gathering that we often experience through summer vacations, summer travel. School is out in most areas, and so there may be a desire to be close to those you love and adore. That is the Cancer energy as well, where there's a need to be within a close vicinity to people who matter to you. And so perhaps you're understanding something in this cycle of your life around who you do care for and why, the people you want to take care of or protect, or the people that matter to you that you want to reestablish those bonds and connections with. The Cancer energy can also heal any relationship tears. What it does is it softens. And as I say that, I'm getting the visual of clay. And when clay is hardened, it becomes quite firm and structured. But as we add drops of water to the clay, it slowly begins to soften. And so there is a softening influence in Cancer season, which is also the first water element, the first water sign in the zodiac wheel. And so think about what transpires when you water the plants, the grass, the shrubs for the first time after a drought or after a long time of no water. They start to come to life. They need that essential quality. It's the first shower after a period of time with no water. It's the first jump in the lake in the summer. So that first sensation of water hits us, and it's refreshing, awakening, cleansing, and highly needed. And so then consider how that same element can hit your emotional body or stir something in the heart, where the clay starts to soften and it feels safe enough to do so. So this is a seasoning of softening into even a part of yourself that maybe has been hardened or too strict or too mentally driven. This is where there's support for hearing more of what you need, what you feel, and to give yourself that self-care, that self-nourishment. Now, on June 25th, the sun in Cancer is going to square Neptune in Aries at 4 degrees. And this can be the energy of needing to step back and step away because you're not sure of what you feel. The feelings can be very big with the sun in Cancer squaring Neptune in Aries. You could be receiving various messages that conflict in some way, or you don't know what to trust or what to intuitively believe. And so that influence from a Neptune square can bring up self-doubt and a lack of energy, meaning if you were feeling something strongly, there could be the influence here of questioning it or needing more time to figure it out. The square brings about trusting yourself and where you're developing more of that, where you're integrating what the Neptune in Aries sovereignty is guiding you through, while the sun in Cancer expands the heart and your emotional body to allow that to be a part of your new start. But it's happening for the first time in our lives. And so you could feel like you're trying to put some things together or align them in a whole new way. And that feels a little uncertain. But this will be a passing influence, of course. It is important to simply step back and allow whatever you're feeling to move through you and flow through you. And on the same day, on June 25th, Venus in Leo trines Saturn in Aries at 13 degrees. And this is a strong, stabilizing, creative direction. This is good for your desires, your creative projects, for claiming what you want to invest in, as that Saturn in Aries is prepared to go the distance and stay the course with whatever Venus in Leo is feeling that matters to her. So if you've had something coming up that really excites you, it's inspiring, it's bold, it's confident, it has a life to it. As this Venus in Leo trines Saturn in Aries at 13 degrees, this is a clear green light. This is a full yes. This is a go the distance, do the thing, say yes energy that's happening on the same day that the sun squares Neptune. And so I feel like this is part of ushering us into something new and different that you're being guided to for the first time. And you could have a lot of different feelings around it. That Venus in Leo is the risk taker, and Saturn in Aries is saying, yes, now is the time to do what you need to do for you. So I feel that this Aries energy is very strong here on June 25th. And that it's part of our own personal maturity process at some level of our being. Then on June 27th, Mars in Taurus sextiles Jupiter in Cancer at 29 degrees, right before entering Gemini on June 28th. Now, Mars in Taurus has been requiring you to stay the course, feeling stable, strong, and determined to move through something that asserts your self-worth, your self-value, your self-love, to look at what is paying off for you. And as Mars sextiles Jupiter in Cancer, this is an abundance of happiness and feel-good feelings, as both are at the critical 29-degree point of each sign. So there is some type of celebration here on June 27th with this sextile. This is also real, physical, and tangible. This could be something you've been working on paying off. This could be a sense of achievement and growth growth as well. Jupiter in Cancer has been requiring you to emotionally evolve and establish a new belief system around your emotions, your needs, and what you claim for yourself. Mars in Taurus provides a strong grounding influence that stabilizes this part of yourself. So that's part of this yes energy that I'm feeling throughout the week, is that there could be a clear, tangible manifestation on June 27th where the universe validates what you've been moving through and gives you something clear and obvious that is supportive, loving, kind, and ultimately uplifting. So quite a beautiful aspect. Then on June 28th, Mars enters Gemini, and this is where Mars switches gears and he starts to ramp up with what he wants to choose next. Now, the transition unfolds in a beautiful astrological way because every sign is very different from the one before and after it. So Mars in Taurus is fixed air. It is a feminine energy. It is an observer, a hard worker, more cautious, and even takes slow steps. Well, what's been occurring is every planet that's in Taurus is essentially reconnecting with your personal needs, your self-worth, what you want and why. This is why something matters to me. This is why I need it or want it. Then once that's been established, you have a firm foundation for moving ahead from that place. And that's what the entry into Gemini offers. So after you've gained clarity or perhaps reestablished a new sense of clarity around your personal values, then the energy in Gemini says, okay, now what do you want to choose based on what you have determined about your values? And Gemini brings you two choices. And so Mars enters Gemini and will have two choices, two directions, two options. There's the theme of duality here. And what we see with Mars and Gemini is perhaps an old version of ourselves that is comfortable, and then a new version of ourselves is presented. There could be a sense of, okay, that was the old way. Now I'm going to choose a new way. Or now there's two directions happening. Which one serves me and allows me to remain in my sovereignty as I move ahead, now with new awareness that I am mentally working with? Gemini being a highly active air sign that is perceptive, information gathering, questioning, and communicative. Mars now enters into this realm. The pace picks up. He's on the move. He's no longer in that observing, watching mode. Now he is going for a walk, getting in the car, traveling around. Gemini is a travel sign. So there's going to be a new pace of life here that picks up with Mars and Gemini. Plus, because nothing's boring in astrology, Mars is also now talking and interacting through a shared frequency with Uranus in Gemini, which is that high-paced, faster-moving energy impacting our daily lives, our daily environments, making permanent shifts in our everyday realities. Now here comes Mars ramping up and interacting with Uranus, but at a personal level. Now, Mars is a personal planet, so this means your body is now going to be feeling and holding new energies, and your nervous system is going to really be sensing it, especially on June 28th. There's going to be a lot more going on that perhaps you always knew was happening because Uranus in Gemini is busy. There's been a lot of busyness and noise and information circulating. Well, now Mars enters into the sign and you feel it at a more personal level and you're sensing, I've got to get moving. I can't just sit here. I can't just stay over here. Like there's energy here that's requiring me to be in my body, to make moves, to take action, to move something ahead. And your mind is also processing all of that information, plans, and data. So this also ramps up travel energies, whether that is through your vacation plans, your summer travel, or just even feeling like there's more I have to do in a day, more places I need to go, more I have to take care of. Now, because Mars is going to be making an exact conjunction with Uranus in Gemini on July 3rd, that's just next week, this energy is quite potent and strong. And I feel like there could be some kind of clear message coming through to the body around what you need to do, where you need to go, perhaps ideas you're meant to understand. Almost like there's a bigger influence here that's moving you forward. And so if you're feeling that and sensing it, that is exactly the case with this astrology. That also means that now it's time to do the things, make the moves, and it's bigger than you and it's bigger than just this moment. And so I will discuss that more on next Wednesday's podcast as well. But that energy starts now. So if you're realizing you've got to make some plans, make some choices, there's things that are presenting themselves out of the blue, there's something in play here that you could sense, I need to say yes to this. I need to do this. I need to try this. And that's part of Mars and Gemini as well, where there's such a curiosity to just scope it out, just be open to it, just see what happens. It is a short-term influence as well, as the Gemini energy moves quickly to the next endeavor. So there is something happening this week where you could sense that you're ready to jump in the car, you're ready to go to a new museum or to a new place. Like there's just going to be a lot of activity that's happening as we move into July. Now, on that note, we also begin Mercury retrograde on June 29th. And Mercury retrograde is important whenever we're discussing Gemini energies because Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. Mercury stations retrograde at 26 degrees of Cancer on June 29th at 1:35 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is a station retrograde conjunct Jupiter in his final days of Cancer, signaling a loud, clear message is being felt and that there is an intuitive download happening that is expanding you beyond where you feel comfortable. That Cancer energy wants to stay safe, wants to stay in a known place, and Jupiter is opening you up to more of what you're feeling is common or natural. This is quite expansive. And so it's working with the mind and it's working with your choices. So going back to the theme of choices, you might find that there's a strong intuitive understanding of a choice, of a direction, of whatever you're feeling that can't be missed. And so it's interesting because we have this Mercury stationing retrograde conjunct Jupiter, Mars entering Gemini conjunct Uranus. These two outer planets are influencing both personal planets, signaling, again, there's something bigger happening here that you're sensing and feeling. And this is the energy of trusting where the day takes you, trusting what feels right, checking in with your gut level instincts and moving with them without overthinking, over processing, or becoming paralyzed in a decision. Now, I just did an episode for you on Monday discussing more about this Mercury retrograde in Cancer. So please listen to that episode. It was on June 22nd. But I hope that gives you a good overview of what this Mercury retrograde experience will be like for you as Mercury will travel from 26 degrees of Cancer back to 16 degrees of Cancer in your chart until July 23rd. And of course, we'll keep discussing it as we move through the Mercury retrograde energies. Now, also on the same day, two other important influences happen. The Capricorn full moon is exact at 8 degrees, and this is the energy of standstill, stillness, and observing. Capricorn is typically cautious, analytical, and detached. And there is support here for you in stepping back from whatever is front and center and realistically assessing what works, what doesn't, what's important, what's worth your time, And this is a Capricorn full moon of making choices around what you need to continue to invest in, meaning what goals are still essential to you. Where are you going for the second half of this year? What is calling to you that has revealed itself to be important and even newly essential to 2026? Because a Capricorn full moon is actually checking in on what has unfolded for you since the calendar year began back in January, and now making the needed adjustments and changes to continue this year on the right track for you. There's always responsibility in play as well with Capricorn. And so it's bringing up your responsibilities, whatever you're responsible for, whomever you're responsible for, understanding that there's things you have to consider and that certain areas of your life are looking different than you expected or planned, especially because of the strong influences of Aries energy we had in April, signaling that you're meant to have a new chapter, a new start in 2026. And so what adjustments are needed that affect your real world life, your responsibilities, your goals, and what you've been working on. I have a separate video for you on YouTube discussing more about the Capricorn full moon. I go through the chart, discussing all the various energies in play here, including the T-squares to both Neptune and Saturn in Aries. So we have to make room in our lives for something new and different. And this is where you might see that in a whole new way here at the end of June. Now, one more development on June 29th is that Jupiter enters Leo at 10:52 p.m. And so this could occur for you on June 30th, depending on your location and time zone. But essentially, Jupiter enters into the fixed fire creation energy of Leo, and there is something that comes to life in a very big, bold way. This is a big change from Jupiter in soft, caring, heart-oriented Cancer as energy moves into the strengthening, determined, fixed fire sign of Leo and strengthens the heart, strengthens your desire, attraction, creation, and magnetism, strengthens what you want in your world that you feel you're ready to move towards, because the fire sign energy is about inspiration, motivation, getting things moving, going in a direction that calls to you, and you feel it at a very clear level of your being. Now, Jupiter entering Leo is ruled by the sun, and I feel that this is going to amplify the light body, amplify the light we hold, especially our own solar plexus, where you might feel if a part of yourself has been dimmed, diminished, or has been leaking energy. Your solar plexus is going to come alive in a very strong, powerful way, and you have to be aware of the exaggeration of Jupiter as well, because Jupiter can take things to extremes. It goes overboard. It does too much. And so that's where that Jupiter in Leo energy can be a sunburn, can be the burning influences of fire, where it gets to be too much or out of hand. That's where the energy can be overly confident, pompous, reckless, and egomaniac. And so with Jupiter, we always have to be aware of regulating these expressions. But as Jupiter newly enters Leo, there's going to be a new vibrant pulse in the energy field. And you might feel excited to create, to take a risk, to do something more recreational, because Leo is the energy of creation, procreation, and recreation. So it is games and sports and where you compete to determine if you're the best or what your skill level is. This definitely amplifies those World Cup energies I mentioned earlier. This is meant to be sport and play and fun and inner child expression. And so even if you are not playing in the World Cup right now, you might feel excited to do something that simply brings your inner child to life. life. And so that would be something to stay aware of here as Jupiter enters Leo. Now, I've already done 2 previous podcast episodes for you on Jupiter in Leo energies. One episode was discussing Jupiter in Leo interacting with all 12 astrology signs and the influence it would have on each of the signs. That was back on June 15th. And then back on May 18th, we discussed Jupiter in Leo in all 12 astrology houses. So those 2 episodes may feel more relevant to you right now as Jupiter enters Leo this week. And it also helps you understand what's going to be blossoming and growing for you more effortlessly through Jupiter. Jupiter is where we have rewards, ease, recognition, beneficial developments that finally come through and happen. This is the area of your chart where things come together in a faster, more joyful way. And we can always use more of that, right? So that is important to note. Now, I now have to bring into the story that as Jupiter enters into Leo, Jupiter is going to have an immediate square to Chiron in Taurus at 0 degrees. Chiron first entered this sign just a few days ago on June 19th. So Chiron is newly in Taurus. And here comes Jupiter, also in a fixed sign, creating a square. This is their 3rd and final square. And it's interesting because previously Jupiter squared Chiron twice back in October 23rd, when both were at 24 degrees. So Jupiter in Cancer at 24 degrees, Chiron in Aries at 24 degrees. Then they had a second square on December 21st at 22 degrees of each sign. And now they have their 3rd and final square with both in a whole new sign, new territory, new elements, new expressions, signaling a turning point in your healing journey that brings about renewed confidence in what you want next, but also reveals where you do not have the necessary self-worth or self-love that you're seeing in a bold, clear way. So this is actually a square that invites greater internal strengthening. You might see where you need more confidence to be who you are in the world, where you're ready to stand strong and firm in who you are, to not waver in the emotions or to hold back your truth. And there can be discomfort in this. So the square is exact on July 1st, which I will discuss more in next Wednesday's podcast as well. But there is something here that you've been approaching as a new beginning point in your self-love and self-worth, which is Chiron and Taurus, as well as claiming it confidently and powerfully, which is Jupiter in Leo. So again, the turning of a story, the new endeavor is here, a new beginning has arrived, and with it, you could have some new insecurities as well, some new parts of yourself that are now popping up or popping in with new questions, new considerations, things that are simply a part of your growth. And we're meant to keep growing, to keep evolving. And so if you can see it through that lens of I'm growing into a new version of myself to love even more, to honor and respect even more, it's going to bring up new things to see in yourself to fully and powerfully claim and honor. Now, both of these signs, Taurus and Leo, are associated with parts of your personal development. And so that's why I'm referencing you, although you could experience this through something in the external world pushing you into more of your light body, pushing you to create, pushing you to be more in your power as a healer, a guide, a mentor, a wisdom keeper. This is a push. And that's part of what that Jupiter in Leo energy is going to do. And the square is uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable push into a part of yourself you're newly understanding and meeting. But then Jupiter in Leo moves forward and does not return to squaring that Chiron, but Chiron remains at 0 degrees of Taurus until September 17th. So there's something to be sitting with and personally integrating here around your true gifts, a more evolved sense of self, a more accepting and loving sense of self that you are stabilizing and integrating. And because of this strong collective influence of Chiron now in Taurus, I am releasing a new deep dive program on Chiron and Chariklo in your astrology chart called The Healer and the Sanctuary. And I want to share with you a channeled story that came through about their love story, about their connection, about their unique starseed frequencies, because they had a very clear frequency match where Chariklo was a sea nymph. She was a Piscean energy who floated effortlessly with the waves, flowing and ebbing with the creatures of the sea. And she had a lot of light codes that allowed her to shape shift between realms and dimensions. And when she met Chiron, the centaur, they had a clear frequency match and experienced love at first sight that led to a long-term mutual partnership and marriage. She was able to turn into a centaur so she could be with him in his earthly experience and in his cave, and they created a family together. They were known for healing each other with deep understanding and a compassionate connection. And so as I've been working on this program for over a year, I have been channeling in different understandings of these gifts for each of them, including this story that I want to share with you about their star seed gifts to the planet, and of course, how the energies show up for us in our astrology charts and in our astrological gifts. The story is called The Healer and the Sanctuary. They did not arrive on Earth together, but they had a deep knowing that the other was present because their shared frequency pulsed in harmony across time and space. Chiron descended first. He entered Earth through a fracture as his soul's initiation into this physical dimension. His body carried a wound that could not be healed by his own hands, so he was guided to learn what no other centaur or immortal ever learns easily as a human: how compassion for self and others arrives through limitations, pain, and ongoing self-acceptance. Chiron's mission was clear: to teach and guide through personal lived experience how to translate cosmic intelligence into something the human nervous system could adapt and integrate. Chariklo followed by choice. She entered this realm not to heal Chiron or his wound, but to remain with him in energetic union while continuing to develop her own gifts. She knew that pain transforms more swiftly when it is witnessed without fear and held with pure love. He did not need to be alone nor saved, but she would continue to evolve her own abilities in his safe presence. She chose Earth not to fix anything, but to hold space for what is. Chariklo incarnated as presence by anchoring coherent stability and compassion into chaotic timelines. She arrived as a star-born consciousness of the feminine waters. Where Chiron carried the codes of healing, advancements, and alchemy, Chariklo carried the codes of containment, unconditional love, and witness. Chiron was marked by suffering because Earth required him to understand pain from the inside. Every time he healed another, he absorbed a little more of the collective wound. He learned humility as well as patience when working with the timeline of the human body. He gained wisdom from the trees, the herbs, the stars, and the physical form. He made connections that healed what was missing or lost. His hidden cave along an unsuspecting path on Mount Pelion was a healing sanctuary. On an inspired whim, he would dash into the forest, grabbing a special blend of herbs from his living apothecary, and apply a signature remedy that worked like magic on the pain. He became known as the great alchemist, shaman, astrologer, and guide on the mountaintop, the all-knowing forest doctor who could help anyone. Chariklo held a highly sensitive frequency that needed to be protected and honored in every lifetime. She was always greatly misunderstood by humans as she didn't embody armor, a false ego, or heavy shadow work. Her lightness struggled to align with the human experience, especially when the dense world was too hard, too cold, and too intense for her light codes. She needed silence and clear energy space to feel fully present in this realm. As each lifetime unfolded, Chiron and Chariklo found each other slowly on the human timelines. They danced through cosmic cycles together and separately, feeling and sensing the other's presence in their hearts when they missed connecting in the physical world. They were often strangers drawn to the same quiet places in the mountains, libraries, forgotten temples, and night skies untouched by city light. They probably missed each other by mere minutes or hours at times, even as they stood within the same vicinity of one another. But their starseed bond always remained intact across dimensions. They trusted soul timing. When they eventually recognized one another on Earth, it was not by faces or physical qualities, but by frequency. A powerful feeling that could light up the night sky. There was a vibrant hum when they shared space, and a resonance that felt older than language. An undeniable, timeless, energetic connection was present. Chemistry of the starseed kind. Together they evolved in each cycle. Chiron provided her with a safe place to reside in his healing cave, just out of sight in the softer shadows, where she could choose to hide or emerge as she desired. She could remain in her true frequency without interference or weird stares. At time when Chiron was deep in consultation with a patient, she would provide her own wisdom on the energetics of a matter, offering energy work and spiritual weaving on those who would benefit from her talents. Chariklo was the first medical intuitive working expertly with energy medicine, providing greater healing alongside Chiron's physical medicine gifts. He protected her. She accepted him. They honored each other's unique gifts and powers. They loved each other without possession. And as their love story evolved, the gods tested them as the gods do. Chiron was asked to give endlessly. He was required to tirelessly work, serve, teach, suffer silently, and always be available to anyone who arrived at the entrance of his cave. Chariklo was asked to disappear behind him. She was to remain unseen and unnamed as she held space in the back of the cave, providing high-level frequency grounding and energy medicine that anchored her field in the earth. But after mastering their joint abilities and shared space and years of relentless service, they refused to be tested, refused to be hidden, misunderstood, and overworked. They chose not to be bothered by the mocking or the gossip or the inquisitive stares of the other centaurs. They had clarity that their loving connection was to ultimately be witnessed and known. They were starseeds tasked with demonstrating a different kind of union that was not dramatic or extreme or typical. Their love was based on mutual respect, kindness, and silent understandings of the other, and it was more than enough for their hearts. Chiron learned through Chariklo that the healer must also be held and witnessed. She was his sanctuary. Chariklo learned through Chiron that devotion without loving your true self disappears. He was her healer. Together they continued to evolve through Earth's grand cycles and quiet moments. As starseeds, their love was not about escaping from Earth, even though it was a difficult place to exist with their cosmic talents. Rather, they elevated what love truly is when it is integrated between masculine and feminine energies that solely want to give to each other with purity. They demonstrated what could be possible when wisdom and compassion walk together, when masculine purpose softens into presence, when feminine sacred space allows transformation without collapse. In their final shared incarnation, they understood a deep truth about their love story. They were never here to heal Earth alone. Their starseed frequency brought onto the planet a new model of healing, authenticity, and wholeness within a divinely guided union. With that in mind, they only had to be their true selves to the other. Everything else would be understood in time. Their true frequency was always enough in a world that never fully accepted them. Chiron lived until he was 51 years old. Then he returned. Chariklo lived to be 63 human years. Then she returned. And when they both eventually left Earth, slipping back into the star fields they once called home, their true frequencies remained on the Earth. Their frequencies can be found in healers who lead with heart, compassion, and humility for the painful human experience, in partnerships rooted in supportive love, devotion, and mutual sovereignty through the many imperfect versions of connection. In those who understand that love is not the absence of wounds or unhealed imprints, but rather the space where wounds are allowed to become wisdom. Chiron and Chariklo are guiding lights of what it means to be cosmic travelers from other worlds who are here to contribute something special and different to the human experience, regardless of the misunderstandings, misinterpretations, projections, and distortions that exist. Their story continues wherever souls choose growth instead of armor, authenticity over conforming, devotion over sacrifice, and love that spans dimensions instead of just lifetimes. Chiron and Chariklo are a true love story seeded from the stars. The healer and the sanctuary are energetic imprints in our astrology charts. And if you'd like to learn more about it, I'll put the link below in the podcast description. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'll be back on Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode. See you back here soon.